I'll start first from biggest political party, Nepali Congress, Dr. Minendra Rijal. First question will be like how do different political parties in Nepal perceive the country's role in changing global politics, especially in the South Asia, particularly rising economic power like China and India. I think let's have 3 minutes so that others will have also chance to answer same.
Thank you very much. I was hoping that I'll get to start from a positive note. But the question he asked me, puts me in a difficult spot to start with a positive note. How have political parties been perceiving or positioning on Nepal's foreign policy, Nepal's priorities? My frustration emanates from the fact that on the positive side, this probably is the biggest opportunity Nepal has. With the emergence of China and India, and we being seated in between India and China, I cannot think of any other moment when a country can think of as, my moment has come. This is just about right time I should be putting my acts together. But with that aside, or that said, now if I look at any political parties, and that includes mine, certainly mine is better than the others. I'm not saying that because I have to say that. I certainly very strongly believe that mine's better than any other. But at the same time, I do not see any political party trying to understand, or even if they have understood, trying to take the best advantage of the position that's emerging in our part of the world. One of the worst things I've seen in recent past is, and I should say for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, we have been trying to appease one of our neighbors at the expense of losing a long-term credibility with the other. That's not going to do any good for any country.
What should they do now? It's in future. Like in the past, maybe they have done lots of mistakes.
No, first of all, we simply should understand that India and China both are very important for us. And it does not take a genius to figure out India matters more than China does. If we have to say it, we should say it. If we do not need to say it, that's a fact. And then given that fact, how we benefit the best out of that. And in today's world, I guess, in one of the seminars just in the recent past, organized by the same institution, I served 4 or 5 cover pages of The Economist. One, India's moment, will Modi blow it? And the other one, China's peak. And the other one, this is recent, August 26, 2023, Xi's failing model, why he won't fix China's economy. And then the other one from 2022, competition for Taiwan. And then there is largely the story on TSMC, China Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. And I guess, to me, for any Nepali, that should sound like ocean of opportunity. As long as we refrain from portraying one party, my opposition being closer to the country I do not feel needed today, and try my best overzealously to portray myself as being very close to the establishment that matters more to Nepal. If we stop doing that, we don't need to do anything much. It does not take a genius to benefit out of the prominence India and China have and will continue to have in the medium-term future. Long run, I do not know for medium, of course.
Okay, Dr. Rijal, thank you. In same background, Dr. Rajan Khanal, what are the commonalities or the common foreign policy exists among Nepalese political parties. Like they are saying they respect Panchil and they respect non-alignment and so on. But if you see while they are in power, they deal differently.
मेरो विचारमा नेपालका पोलिटिकल पार्टीहरूका बीचमा नेपालको फरेन पोलिसीका विषयमा कमनालिटी खोज्ने हो भने केही हाम्रा निश्चित कमनालिटिजहरू छन्। हाम्रो जियोग्राफीले नै हामीलाई निश्चित कुराहरूमा डिफाइन गरिदिएको छ कि हामी जुन जियोपोलिटिकल लोकेसन भनेर भन्छौँ, अर्थात् हाम्रो लोकेसन जुन हो, यो लोकेसनले हामीलाई धेरै म्यानुभर गर्ने छुट दिँदैन फरेन पोलिसीमा। वी आर अलरेडी डिफाइन एन्ड कन्फाइन विदिन सर्टेन पोलिसी। त्यसो भएको हुनाले त्यो भित्र रहेर आजका हाम्रा नेसनल प्रायोरिटी के हुन् र त्यो प्रायोरिटीहरूलाई सर्भ गर्ने, नेसनल इन्ट्रेस्टका ती प्रायोरिटीहरू सर्भ गर्नका लागि कुन मतलब चाहिँ कुरा अगाडि सार्नुपर्छ भन्ने कुरामा हाम्रा अलिअलि फरकहरू देखिन थालेका छन्, देखिन्छन् टाइममा। त्यो भनेको मलाई लाग्छ त्यो नेसनल इन्ट्रेस्टलाई प्रधान राख्ने हो भने त्यो विषय त्यति ठुलो विषय बन्दैन भन्ने लाग्छ। त्यो के हो त भनेर भन्दाखेरि यदि हामी यति बेला इकोनोमिक इस्यु, डेभलपमेन्ट इस्यु, पोलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी मेन्टेन गरेर डेभलपमेन्ट इस्युलाई प्रायोरिटाइज गरेर अगाडि जाने हो भने हाम्रा डेभलपमेन्ट प्रायोरिटीहरू के हुन्, ती डेभलपमेन्ट प्रायोरिटीका लागि हामीलाई सपोर्ट गर्ने इन्टरनेसनल कम्युनिटी त्यो कुनै मतलब चाहिँ स्ट्रिङ्स वा कन्डिसन बेगरको सहयोग हामीले सबैसँग लिएर।
तर त्यो चाहिँ द्याट इज टु थ्योरिटिकल, बट वेन एभर प्राइम मिनिस्टर भिजिट्स सर्टेन नर्थ और साउथ एन्ड ही कम्स ब्याक टु नेपाल, then you will see lots of rallies and protests in the street from different political parties. Why this is happening?
त्यो चाहिँ हामीले हाम्रो काम गर्दाखेरिको अथवा हामीले त्यहाँ गएर गर्दाखेरिका सहमति र ती गरेर फर्किँदाखेरि हामी के गरेर आयौँ भन्ने कुराले नै निर्धारण गर्ने कुरा हो हैन। हामीले हाम्रो प्रायोरिटी, मैले फेरि पनि भन्छु त्यो थ्योरिटिकल कुरै होइन, प्रायोरिटी तपाईँले छुट्याउनै पर्छ। नेसनल इन्ट्रेस्टमा आधारित रहेर हाम्रा प्राथमिकताहरू छुट्याएर हामी उनीहरूसित डिल गर्ने। त्यो डिल गर्दाखेरि नेसनल इन्ट्रेस्टको हाम्रो यो हो भनेर भनेपछि उदाहरणको लागि अहिले त हामी कहाँ लाँदैछौँ भने प्रोजेक्टहरू नै पनि विवादमा तानिन खोज्दैछौँ हामी, जुन चाहिँ अनफर्चुनेट हो हाम्रो लागि। म एउटा कुरा डाक्टर रिजालसँग के सहमत छु भने यो हाम्रो मोमेन्ट, यसलाई हामी थ्रेट मात्रै नठानौँ, दुईवटा हाम्रा राइज भए छिमेकीहरू भन्ने कुरालाई थ्रेटको रूपमा मात्रै नलिउँ, यसलाई अपर्च्युनिटीको रूपमा पनि लिउँ। यो अपर्च्युनिटीको रूपमा लिँदाखेरि चाहिँ नेसनल इन्ट्रेस्टलाई केन्द्रभागमा राखेर हामी बिचमा मिनिमम अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङ गरौँ। यो हाम्रो मोमेन्टम हो, यो भोलि गुम्यो भने गुमे हुन्छ। त्यो गुमेको अवस्थामा सबैसित विश्वासको सम्बन्ध कायम गरेर दुवैसँग प्लस अरू पावरसित पनि, म दुईटाले मात्रै भन्ने कुरा पनि छैन। आजको ग्लोबल विश्वमा अमेरिका, युएस त्यतिकै अब ऊ चाहिँ डोमिनेन्ट पावर हो होइन, फर्स्ट पावर हो। त्यसपछि अरू युरोप, अरू एसियन पावरहरू पनि छन्। उनीहरू सहितको विश्वासमा हामीले हाम्रो प्रायोरिटीहरू यी हुन्, यसमा हामी तिमीहरूको सहयोग लिएर काम गर्न चाहन्छौँ, यो चाहिँ हाम्रो प्रायोरिटी। यो कुरा हामी गरेर जान सक्दाखेरि हामीलाई समस्या म देख्दिनँ, जुन कुरा हाम्रा छिमेकीहरूले अगाडि बढाइरहेको। उदाहरणको लागि बङ्गलादेशै अहिले पछिल्लो उदाहरण हो।
Okay, thank. There is a book by Paul Collier. According to his research, he tells us that if there is a certain growth in economic sector in neighboring country, if you are a landlocked country, then your economy will grow by certain percentage. So there is a certain advantage if you are a landlocked country and your neighboring countries are progressing very well, then you will have certain effect on your economy. So next question, I think in the same context, so Nepalese political parties, they have their own foreign policies. When they are in government, they handle differently when they are in opposition. So what should you suggest, that what should be the common among these major political parties, especially while dealing with India and China?
Thank you, Dr. Pokhel. Foreign policy को कुरा गर्दा मुलुकको हित, हाम्रो नेपालको हितलाई केन्द्रबिन्दुमा राखेर सोच्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। हामी चाहिँ मल्टी पार्टी सिस्टम प्र्याक्टिस गरिरहेछौँ। यो इन्टर्नल पोलिटिक्समा एकअर्काका कम्पिटिसनहरू, एकअर्कालाई कसरी अगाडि बढ्ने भन्ने कुरा आफ्नो ठाउँमा छ। तर जब हामी एक्सटर्नल एफेयर या फोरेन पोलिसीका कुरा गर्दा त्यहाँ नेपाल देखिनु पर्यो र नेपालको हितलाई केन्द्रबिन्दुमा राख्नु पर्यो। दुर्भाग्य के हो भने हाम्रो इन्टरनल पोलिटिक्स पनि फोरेन पोलिसीमा कहीँ न कहीँ प्रभाव पारेको या फोरेन पोलिसी पनि प्रभावित भइरहेको एउटा विषय यहाँले जुन पहिले भन्नुभयो नि, हाम्रो प्रधानमन्त्री कुन मुलुकलाई पहिले भिजिट गर्दा पनि नेपालको लागि त्यो ठुलो न्युज भन्छ होइन, र त्यो गएर राष्ट्रवादसँग जोडिन्छ। डेभलपमेन्टका या कुनै मुलुकले एडहरू भनौँ न अनुदान दिँदा पनि त्यो चाहिँ राष्ट्रवादसँग जोडेर हेरिने जुन हाम्रो चलन छ त्यो दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई एउटा। अर्को हामी चाहिँ अब दुईवटा नेबर कन्ट्री भनौँ न, भारत र चीन जुन प्रकारको अहिले ग्लोबल लेभलमा एउटा 5th लार्जेस्ट इकोनोमी, अर्को चाहिँ एक प्रकारको फर्स्टै, अहिले सेकेन्ड छ, फर्स्टतिर जाँदैछ र यिनीहरू सामरिक रणनीतिक शक्तिको रूपमा ग्लोबललाई एक प्रकारको लिडरसिप गर्ने त्यो सोचका साथ अगाडि बढिरहेको। यसबाट हामीले फाइदा लिनुको साटो कहीँ न कहीँ एक प्रकारको इन्फेरिटी कम्प्लेक्सबाट घर्षित, तर बाहिर आउँदा त्यो चाहिँ क्रान्तिकारिता देखिने एउटा त्यो पर्सेप्सन जुन पर्सिभ्ड गरेछौँ त्यो मलाई लाग्छ घातक छ। त्यसैले अर्को अहिलेको ग्लोबल एरिनामा जुन चेन्जेस आएको छ, ग्लोबल पोलिटिक्समै चेन्जेस आएको छ, ग्लोबल पावर अर्डरहरू चेन्जेस भइरहेको छ, यति बेला हामीले नेपालको विदेश नीतिको कुरा गर्दा कुन कुरालाई प्राथमिकतामा राख्ने, त्यसमा कहीँ न कहीँ हाम्रा दलहरू इन्टरनल त्यो कन्फ्लिक्ट भनौँ या इन्टरनल पोलिटिक्सको कारणले गर्दा त्यतातिर ध्यान केन्द्रित गर्न सकिरहेको छैन, जुन चाहिँ हाम्रो फोरेन पोलिसीको लागि सबभन्दा ल्यागिङ पोइन्टको रूपमा मलाई लाग्छ।
अब अर्को कुरा चाहिँ अहिले जुन तपाईँले भन्नु जुन हामीले नन एलाइनमेन्ट पञ्चशील मानेका छौँ, only today or yesterday I think there is a Republican politician in US, Taylor Greene, he said the rising of BRICS is another challenge for West. ब्रिक्स चाहिँ माथि आउनुको लागि वेस्टलाई चाहिँ च्यालेन्ज हुन्छ भनेर भनेछ, भने मल्टिपोलार भइसक्यो। तर सुड वी फलो पञ्चशील एन्ड नन एलाइनमेन्ट कन्टिन्युसली अर वी निड टु बी अल्सो डिफ्रेन्ट देन प्रिभियसली?
यो भनेको हाम्रो अब नेपालको एक प्रकारको संविधानले होइन हामीले त्यो गर्यो, तर आजको रिलिभेन्सीमा आजको सन्दर्भमा पनि मलाई लाग्छ त्यसलाई कसरी हामीले नेपालको हितमा बढी अधिकतम प्रयोग गर्ने भन्नेतिर ध्यान दिनुपर्छ। र हामी लेखाइमा बोलाइमा नन एलाइनमेन्ट भन्छौँ, तर हाम्रो गराइ कहीँ न कहीँ दुईवटा कुरा अहिले नै दक्षिणतिर सीमाको कुरा आउँदा अब नेपालमा ठुलो ह्युज एन्ड क्राई हुन्छ। अहिले चिनले तपाईँको एउटा नक्सा पास गरेछ, अब त्यसको बारेमा त्यो बोलीहरू हिजो यतातिर हुँदा जुन क्रान्तिकारी देखिन्थ्यो त्यो बोली फेरिएको छ। त्यो भनेको के हो भने हामीले जसरी पार्टी निर्माण गर्दा जे पर्सिभ गर्यो नि त्यो चाहिँ हाम्रो फोरेन पोलिसीमा पनि दुर्भाग्यवश रिफ्लेक्ट गर्ने
यो हिपोक्रेसी देखियो, पोलिटिकल पार्टीहरूको अलिकति फरक देखियो,
दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण
देखियो। हस्, धन्यवाद अनरेबल राजकिशोरजीलाई। म अब हि इज माई senior and also Dr. Jagdish Chandra Pokhrel. So I mean like we are now having some not conflict but the debate, discussion, discourse regarding Belt and Road Initiative and MCC in Nepal. So we are rather than taking money and developing our infrastructure as per our priority, this has created a different political scenario. So what could be the best way to move forward regarding Belt and Road Initiative and MCC?
That's more than $1 million question for me.
Thank you. So, according to you, I mean, what is your opinion regarding this one?
Thank you, Dr. Pokhrel. I mean, rather than expressing my opinion upfront, let me put you this way. Today's theme is basically a small state's capability to navigate geopolitical
policy.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
If we remain within that,
because this BRI and MCC has entered into that.
Now
arena.
There is a challenge for navigators.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, what kind of boat or ship do you have? And what are the two coastal areas, left and right? Okay. Now, the wisest thing is to navigate somewhere where there will be less the risk of being wrecked, okay, being crashed. So the safest thing is more natural. Don't go against the current. Probably you don't have the capability, or you don't have the kind of force or power to drive your nation, your boat, against the current, no matter how much you would like to it to happen. So better, safer, more sustainable, even less conflictual would be go by natural flow. Take natural flow. Don't be too unnatural. Don't be too idealistic. So what that basically means is whatever project you accept, whether BRI or MCC, be very clear why you have remained behind, what has constrained your capabilities. Now, whatever project increases your capability, accept that one. Any project, any support that reduces your capability to navigate, to negotiate, don't take it.
So political parties, they have to
realize.
Realize
They
that.
have to realize. Assuming that they are the ones who will be driving. They are the ones who will be rowing the boat. That assumption itself needs qualification. But again, that's what I would say. Okay?
Okay, thank you. So again, coming back to the Dr. Rijal, it's because the geopolitical tensions are not, I mean, uncommon. Everywhere you see something is happening between different countries or in region. So how these political parties, I mean, Nepalese political parties, should handle this resolve in territorial and diplomatic issues with neighboring countries, especially with, because the border issue with China now and border issue with India. So what should be the way forward? Because this is, whenever there is an election, when there is something happening, sometimes government changes because of these issues. So what would be the way forward to handle these types of issues?
I don't know if my answer will be off the base, or I'll stay, or if I make any sense at all. One of the things that comes to my mind is, I mean, I probably would not be too specific about political parties. Then you put me in a box where I be...
Now you are Central Committee member of Nepali Congress, so you should say,
as you are.
Yeah, of course.
So I'd rather let you do that. I guess, I mean, if you put me in the box, then what happens is I become a protagonist. And I would not serve a purpose if I be that here. On what political parties should do, and I guess, should we not learn a lesson that both our neighbors do not recognize the map, we think legitimately shows what our boundaries should be. I mean, it tells a lot about our capability, our incapacity to articulate our position to both of our neighbors. That's one. That said, you're talking about, and let me just borrow a page.
And its title of the discussion is navigating.
Yeah.
How Nepalese political
I'll just
parties.
maybe there is something that we can borrow from Henry Kissinger's book on leadership. He talks about the independence of Bangladesh. And exactly at that point of time, what he was doing, he was visiting India. From India, he was scheduled to go to Pakistan. From Pakistan, he was scheduled to go to China. And at the same time, Soviet Union and the US were negotiating how they could control proliferation of the nuclear arms. And look at this. India thought at that time Bangladesh issue was basically a issue of refugees and food security. India thought This is the position of US. India's position was they're asking for independence, and deservedly so. And Pakistan was saying, this is our integral part. That's East Pakistan, we are West Pakistan, we are one country. At that time, Nixon makes a stop in Delhi, goes from there to Pakistan, from there goes to Nixon, talk to Nixon, so that there will be opening for Sino-US relationship, and the US basically doing homework for Nixon, preparing for Nixon's visit to China. And you can still do it. You can negotiate with the Soviets, you can talk to Indians, you can talk to Pakistanis, and you can talk to the Chinese, and still serve your nation. Should we not learn from there? Here it seems like,
Are Nepalese,
we are not speaking for ourselves, but we are speaking for one country or the other country.
Yeah.
As long as we do that, we are not going to be speaking for ourselves.
Yeah,
Another lesson. Just not long back, when Biden's Secretary of State was visiting China, they were negotiating how they can avoid accidental start of war. Right? How if today's artificial intelligence or machines probably automatically, without intention, if they trigger something and if there is a war, how do you prevent that? And they were saying that we have long experience of being able to prevent that during the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about that. They could negotiate that thing, and at the same time, Biden was saying, Xi is a dictator. In the foreign relationship, you can say this and at the same time negotiate your interests. Should we not learn from there? I think we should. And have we been wise enough to learn from there? No, we have not.
I think you need to have a ability to navigate on those issues. So same question, like this is a very common issue that is being discussed and always subjected to during the election or accusing other parties. So how can we manage to navigate to resolve this these border issue with two giant neighbors?
I think in today's world, diplomacy and diplomacy. There is no other way. I mean, you have to make your diplomatic efforts more effective, more efficient, more pragmatic. That's the only way you can resolve these issues. There is no other way. You have to have some patience also. You have to also, it does not mean that you should not assert your, whatever your national interest and whatever your position. That's the way we have to do it, what I personally think. Even if government or its political party. When it comes to issues and priorities, obviously that needs to be also looked on it. My question is that when we discuss about the diplomacy and the foreign policy and its priorities, always we have to look it into the domestic context as well as the regional and international context, how the situation is evolving. So sometimes we all know that the foreign policy is by and large extension of your domestic policy. So the domestic priorities comes, then you have to mobilize your resources, you have to mobilize your missions, you have to mobilize as a whole your state mechanism towards that direction to achieve that whatever goal you have.
In the past, were there any initiative that Nepalese political parties, when they are in power, initiated some discussion at least, or informal way to resolve this border dispute with two countries?
Obviously, there has been a number of occasions that we can cite on it, and one of it is that if, this eminent persons group that was formed to discuss about the Nepal-India relations. The whole government of,
that is only India. That there is no such committee with China.
No, China's one was also, it was in 1960 when B.P. Koirala was Prime Minister. They by and large resolved those issues, and then some of the issues emerged during the time of Sushil Koirala Prime Minister, and they have formed their own committee. They sent to the field study for that. They are also doing, but not in that entire, the wider range of that we have with India. That is why we have not only in the boundary issue, it
Okay.
is also the entire Nepal-India.
Okay, let's leave this.
That includes trade, transit, then water resources, then of course this famous treaty of 1950. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is a very big issue to come with some concrete solution, because there has to be many formal and informal. So next question to Honorable Raj Kishore Manijulai. I mean, हाम्रो एउटा कमन पोलिसी के गर्नु छ, हाउ क्यान वी डेभलप आवर फरेन पोलिसी, लाइक कमन पोलिसी? देयर इज वी हेभ पार्लियामेन्ट कमिटी, वी हेभ अ पार्लियामेन्ट, वी हेभ पोलिटिकल पार्टिज, we have always changing foreign policy document in foreign ministry sometime. So how can we, I mean, what should be the most important point in those foreign policy for the parties to respect, to devise those policies? कस्तो हामीले कस्तो बनाउन सक्छ त पोलिसी, ताकि अलिकति कङ्क्रिट रूपमा सबै पोलिटिकल पार्टीहरूलाई एउटा गाइडेन्स बनाउनु पायो भने वेन एभर यु आर इन गभर्मेन्ट, प्राइम मिनिस्टर जानुहुन्छ, फरेन मिनिस्टर जानुहुन्छ, एन्ड देयर विल बी नो एनी कन्ट्रोभर्सी वेन एभर दे कम ब्याक होम.
मलाई के लाग्छ भने अहिले संविधान जारी भएपछि एक प्रकारको हामीले पोलिटिकल चेन्जेस भनौँ न ठुलो उपलब्धि प्राप्त गरिसकेपछि अहिले हाम्रो फोकस हुनुपर्छ कि नेपालको प्रायोरिटिज के हो. त्यो भनेको सोसियो इकोनोमिक ट्रान्सफर्मेसनको लागि अब हामीले डेभलपमेन्ट इस्युजमा यदि हाम्रो आफ्नो फरेन पोलिसीलाई फोकस गर्यो भने यसमा मलाई लाग्छ एक प्रकारको सहमति या एक प्रकारको बुझाइ हुनसक्छ दलहरूको. होइन भने त्यो धेरै अब पोलिटिकल आफ्नै आइडियोलोजीहरू छ, आफ्नै अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङहरू छ, त्यसमा डिफ्रेन्सेस भइहाल्ने हो. तर अहिलेको कन्टेस्टमा हाम्रो मेन प्रायोरिटिज भनेको अब इकोनोमिक डेभलपमेन्टलाई यदि फोकस गरेर जाने हो भने मलाई लाग्छ एउटा विषय त्यो हो. र यसको आजको सन्दर्भमा पार्टीहरूभित्र पनि एउटा बहस विमर्श चलाएर हाम्रो कमन गोल प्राप्त गर्न कुन प्रकारको हुनसक्छ पार्लियामेन्टभित्र, होइन, त्यो कमिटीहरू जुन विषयगत समितिहरू छ त्यसमा अनि एक्सपर्टिजहरूको बिचमा त्यो एउटा बहस चलाएर हामीले आजको सन्दर्भमा हाम्रो फरेन पोलिसी कस्तो हुने र हाम्रो प्रायोरिटिजहरू के हुने. मलाई के लाग्छ भने हामीले यदि सोसियो इकोनोमिक ट्रान्सफर्मेसन र डेभलपमेन्टको इस्युजहरूलाई केन्द्रबिन्दुमा राख्यो भने सहमतिको अलिकति सजिलो हुन्छ. होइन भने अहिले पनि अब पोलिटिकल पार्टी मल्टी पोलिटिकल पार्टी छ र त्यसको वैचारिक दार्शनिक दृष्टिकोणहरू त फेरि कस्तो भने हिजोको सन्दर्भमा कोल्ड वारको समयमा अब साम्राज्यवादी र विस्तारवादी भन्ने एक प्रकारको बुझाइ थियो, जबकि त्यो सन्दर्भ पनि आज फेरिएको छ. आजको दिनमा अब जसरी हिजो एउटा अमुक देशलाई साम्राज्यवादी भन्थ्यो, आज त त्यो त फेरिएको छ. अन्य मुलुक जो हिजो एकदम प्रगतिशील भन्थ्यो त्यो आज ठुलो उसमा आएछ. त्यसैले मलाई के लाग्छ भने पोलिटिकल सिनेरियो चेन्जेस भएको छ, ग्लोबल त्यो एरिना त्यो अर्डरहरू पनि चेन्जेस भएको छ. र हामीले नेपाललाई के चाहियो, हामीले यसबाट नेपाललाई अब मलाई लाग्छ यो सोसियो इकोनोमिक ट्रान्सफर्मेसनको सवालमा केन्द्रित भएर र दुईटा हाम्रा छिमेकी जसरी आज इमर्जिङ फोर्सको रूपमा विकास गर्दैछ
त्यस्तो आई मिन हाम्रो पोलिटिकल पार्टीहरूले त्यस्तो डिस्कसन, त्यस्तो डिस्कोर्स इनिसिएसन गरेका छन् त. हाम्रो लेट्स हैव अ कमन फरेन पोलिसी भनेर डकुमेन्ट बनाउन त्यस्तो पोलिटिकल पार्टीको कुनै इनिसिएटिभ ल्याएर हामीले सुन्दैनौँ, बिकज इट्स अलवेज ह्यान्ड अ सिङ्गल पोलिटिकल पार्टी वेन एभर दे आर इन गभर्मेन्ट.
अब त्यो अब मलाई लाग्छ त्यो समयले अहिले प्रेसर त्यो प्रकारको समय आइसक्यो. हिजो हाम्रो फोकस के हुन्थ्यो भने पोलिटिकल कुराहरूमा हामी बढी केन्द्रित थियौँ. हाम्रा इकोनोमिक या डेभलपमेन्टका इस्युजहरू हाम्रा सेकेन्ड्री हुन्थ्यो. तर संविधान जारी भइसकेपछि एक प्रकारको हामी पोलिटिकली जहाँ पुग्न चाहन्थ्यौँ त्यो कमोबेस पुगिसकेको अवस्था छ. र अहिले जसरी युथ जेनेरेसनहरूमा जसरी डेभलपमेन्टप्रतिको जुन दबाव छ यसले पोलिटिकल पार्टी र नेताहरूले पनि त्यो दबाव फिल गर्छ. यसलाई पोजिटिभ रूपमा लिएर मलाई के लाग्छ भने त्यो चाहिँ हाम्रो फोकस चाहिँ सोसियो
अब पोलिटिकल पार्टीहरूले चाहिँ एकै ठाउँ बस्ने बेला आयो फरेन पोलिसीको लागि. हस्, अब म धन्यवाद. म coming back to the Dr. Jagdish Chandra. Not only political one, because we are also facing lots of, there is a trade deficit, climate change issue, because Nepal is facing lots of disaster, landslide, avalanches, and so on. Because of, it's not because of the Nepal only. It's activities of global big nations, including neighbors. So, how can we, I mean, shape our foreign policy regarding climate change, economic integration, and also their security concern?
Very interesting,
Yeah.
actually. What Manyaji was saying, I would agree with that particular agenda. Probably those are the neutral agenda where political parties can actually come together. If we came up with, let's say, some other political agenda, it is difficult to come up with a consensus document, consensus agenda. But climate change, disaster, economic situation, trade imbalances, probably these are some of the issues where you can develop sort of national discourse and then come up with a consensus document. Two things I would like to stress here. One, there are two major forces acting now in this nation. That's how I see it. One, centrifugal force. Okay. Two, centripetal force. Now the issue is which force dominates the whole course of navigation. That is the issue. Okay. Now, if we assume that this is a small pond bounded by geographic boundaries, and therefore it is up to us to do whatever we manage. If you take this path, probably will be not very practical. There are so much of forces, centrifugal forces working in this country. Actually, we have to manage those forces as well. So,
I mean, looking at the climate change should be the part of the foreign policy. Like many countries, they have that.
They do have. Climate change should actually be the strategic perspective that political parties should look at development and economic growth and the future of the country. That's what they can do. But that will require a lot of educating and also sharing of major informations. Again, the current, undercurrent within the lake or pond in the nation versus the major forces that will be pulling or pushing towards centrifugality, you will have to balance those two forces. Otherwise, the boat is likely to wreck.
Okay, thank you. So coming back to again, Dr. Rijal, we always talk about the economic integration with both countries, like they are rising power economically. One is second, one is fifth. So how can Nepal navigate its economic diplomacy and foreign policy, at least considering two aspects, economic integration and security of these two nations? So how we move ahead regarding these two issues?
Let me try to just jump on the issue that could be quite controversial, that could probably find me in the news tomorrow. I would not worry. MCC has been one of the most talked about, debated, and at least controversial, right? We talked about MCC as US grant only. Do we take grant from an imperialist? Do we or do we not? Instead of talking about, do we need to build our transmission line? We never talked about that. We did not talk about the transmission line. We talk about BRI, but we do not talk about, should we not be talking about doing transmission line through Raswagari? And then can we not come back and say, do we need it? Then that would be talking about Nepal. That would be talking about Nepal's economy. then that will be talking about our priorities. Instead of doing that, we talk about should we take it from an imperialist? Should we take it from an emerging power? Should we take it from the northern neighbor? Should we take it from the southern neighbor? Let's talk about, yes, are we harnessing more water power energy? If we are, do we need transmission line? If we need transmission line, so do we have sufficient funding to do it? If we do not, can we get grant? If we cannot get grant, should we be getting it in loan also? If it's loan, how much interest can we pay? I think those are the legitimate issues. And then when we talk about the economic development, this is what we should be talking about, and we never do that.
But my question is like, political parties, they have manifesto, they have program. Why they are not disseminating these types of policy statement or policy document to the common masses, because they are totally confused?
No, we are, as bad as we have been, I'm not trying to curse myself and curse all other political parties. But the thing is, do we believe in the manifesto that we write, present during the election? How many of us do read that?
At least I did.
But you write it. So you have to read it. Otherwise, I guess we do not ask for votes based upon the manifesto. We go out there and say, look, this guy is Indian pawn. This guy is Chinese pawn. This guy is American pawn. And as if we are giving a message to our people that constantly in all the major capitals in the world, they are conspiring against Nepal. They are not. They simply do not have time in today's world to think about Nepal. They could care less about us. Thank God we are between India and China. We might give it some attention. And should we not be building upon that? Build upon that and develop our economy. And we do not do that. We portray, I'm sure you've listened to us when we were discussing MCC. One of our former prime ministers, who is also a partner in our coalition, was hell-bent upon stopping it, spoke in the floor of the parliament also. We passed it, and still he stayed in the alliance. He still is in the alliance. And then recently, our prime minister's party, much talked about possible prime minister's morcha, the front. You have both. Someone who says, I cannot talk about MCC anymore. The other says, this is the worst thing that has happened to Nepal. And how can you think of creating a new front with opinion as diverse as that?
But
we should not be doing it. That's our biggest failing.
No, the point is, whenever there is an election, for political parties of Nepal, they build certain narratives to catch vote. So why cannot they do all not during the election time to have a good narrative?
Govindji, Dr. Pokhrel, I was denied ticket of the party. If you give me a formula to win election, I will run as an independent.
Okay.
How can I win? Should I speak against India or China or America or everybody else?
Okay.
I do not have a formula for that.
Okay, thank you.
And if our parties are thinking that's the formula to win, that's not a formula to win.
Okay, thank you.
That's a formula to deceive yourself. That's a formula to fool yourself. And that's a formula to keep Nepal where it is today. Then actualize the potential that we have today.
Okay, thank you. So we need to have also pragmatic view. Now, Dr. Bhattarai, looking back to the international, other countries, there is a huge, big national, this diaspora, Nepali diaspora. And we have also a cultural relationship with like India. So how can we utilize this diaspora and our cultural relation and, Lumbini and all those religious pilgrimages to take more benefit? How can our foreign policy be, reform, at least incorporate these types of things in our foreign policy?
पहिला चाहिँ अब मलाई राम्रो के भयो भने मिनेन्द्रजी नै मभन्दा पहिला बोलिदिने हुनुभयो र उहाँले जसरी बोल्नुभयो मैले बोल्नुपर्ने धेरै कुराहरू बोलिदिनु भयो भन्ने भयो, त्यसको लागि मैले धन्यवाद दिनु पर्यो।
होइन, म एमसिसी धेरै भयो हुनाले आई डिडन्ट गो इन दैट वन।
त्यसमा मैले धेरै भनिराख्नु पर्यो।
No, main point is like our foreign policy is dry. We never talk about the culture, only in political space, culture, diaspora.
I will come to that. पहिलो चाहिँ तपाईले जुन भन्नुभयो कल्चरल एस्पेक्ट्स, अब कल्चरल मतलब चाहिँ हाम्रो सभ्यता,
richness, because diverse
सभ्यता संस्कृतिलाई मतलब चाहिँ प्रमोट गर्ने कुरा, एक्सपान्ड गर्ने कुरा, नेपाली डायस्पोरा भन्दा बियोन्डमा पनि पुर्याउने कुराका लागि त सबभन्दा पहिला तपाईँ आफ्नो देशभित्र के अवस्थामा हुनुहुन्छ त्यसले निर्धारण गर्ने हो। जब तपाईँ आफ्नो हाउस अर्डरमा राख्न सक्नुभएको छैन भने त्यो कुराको बारेमा सोच्ने तपाईँसित चिजै हुँदैन।
तर एटलिस्ट पोलिटिकल पार्टीको त प्लान त हुनु पर्यो नि।
अहिले खाएर बिहान खाएर बेलुका के खाउँ भनेको अवस्थामा त मान्छेले मतलब चाहिँ सहर कसरी सुन्दर गर्ने, घर कसरी सुन्दर गर्ने त सोच्न सक्दैन भने जस्तै हो त्यसको। खैर अब हामीले सोच्नुपर्ने कुरा के हो भने पहिलो चाहिँ हामीसित धेरै हाम्रो सभ्यता र संस्कृति छ, त्यसलाई प्रमोट गर्नुपर्छ। चाहे लुम्बिनीको कुरा होस्, चाहे पशुपतिको कुरा होस्, यी सबै कुराहरू, मुक्तिनाथको कुरा आउँदा सबैतिरको कुराहरू त्यसलाई हामीले प्रमोट गरेर जानुपर्छ। जहाँ जहाँ हाम्रो त्यो सम्भावना छ ती क्षेत्रलाई आइडेन्टिफाई गरेर ती ठाउँमा प्राथमिकता छुट्याएर फेरि पनि कुरो आउँछ।
तपाईँ फरेन अब परराष्ट्र सल्लाहकार हुनुभयो, म भर्खरै युरोपतिर देशहरू घुमेर आएँ। एम्बेसीमा जाँदाखेरि दे हेभ नो एक्टिभिटिज एक्सेप्ट गेटिङ स्यालेरी एन्ड डुइङ अल दोज फर्मल प्रोग्राम्स।
त्यो हामी हुँदाखेरिको स्थितिमा अब त्यतिखेर हामीले कोसिस गरेका हौँ। म तपाईँलाई अब एकदम स्पष्ट भनेर भन्नुपर्छ, जस्तै लुम्बिनीको प्रमोसनका लागि देशभित्र पनि हामीले अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय एउटा सम्मेलन गऱ्यौँ, फेरि अर्को सम्मेलनका लागि तयारी गरेका थियौँ। अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय रूपमा पनि केही बुद्धिस्ट कन्ट्रीहरूको हामीले भ्रमण गऱ्यौँ, जस्तै भियतनाम, कम्बोडिया जस्ता न्युली इमर्जिङ इकोनोमिक साउथ इस्ट एसियन कन्ट्रीको अहिलेसम्म हाम्रो फर्मल मतलब चाहिँ भिजिट हुन सकेका थिएन, अफिसियल भिजिट। त्यस बेलामा हामीले प्रायोरिटीमा राखेरै ती भिजिटहरू गऱ्यौँ। युरोपकै सन्दर्भमा पनि हामी बेलायत धेरै लामो समयपछि हाम्रो प्रधानमन्त्रीलाई अफिसियल इन्भिटेसन आयो, हामी भ्रमणमा गयौँ। फ्रान्स हामी गयौँ, पछि स्विजरल्यान्ड अब दाभोस फोरममा गयौँ, जर्मन जाने कार्यक्रम थियो, बिचमा हामी सरकारबाट हट्नु पर्यो। त्यस हुनाले एक्टिभिटिजको हिसाबले हामीले अलिकति समय पाउँदा, यद्यपि कोरोना काल पनि आयो त्यसले असर गर्यो। ती कुराहरू हाम्रो प्राथमिकताभित्र पार्नुपर्छ, सफिसियन्ट थिएनन् तर डिरेक्सन हामीले त्यो पक्रिएका थियौँ। दोस्रो, म तपाईँले यहाँसम्म डायस्पोराको कुरा गर्नुभयो। नेपाली डायस्पोराको मोस्टली फर्स्ट जेनेरेसन अहिले नेपालभन्दा बाहिर गएको अवस्था हो। उनीहरूले विभिन्न ठाउँमा जाँदाखेरि उनीहरू एक ढङ्गले इस्टाब्लिस भएको स्थिति देखिन्छ फर्स्ट जेनेरेसन। त्यही फर्स्ट जेनेरेसनको थोरै पनि सेन्टिमेन्टल एट्याचमेन्ट पनि नेपालप्रति छ। साँच्चै ग्राउन्ड अप यहाँ भएर निश्चित समय यहाँ बिताएर गएको हुनाले ल्याङ्ग्वेज, कल्चर हरेक कुराप्रति उनीहरूको आकर्षण पनि छ र नेपालप्रति केही गरौँ भन्ने भावना पनि छ। त्यो भावनालाई हामीले जसरी हाम्रा छिमेकीहरूले त्यो भावनालाई मतलब आफूले बोकिरहेका छन्, चिनियाहरूले धेरै ठुलो मतलब चाहिँ लगानी भित्र्याए मतलब नन रेजिडेन्सियल चाइनिजबाट। अहिले इन्डियामा मोदीजीको आइसकेपछि त्यसमा ठुलो मतलब चाहिँ उहाँले प्राथमिकता दिएर त्यस ढङ्गको भित्राइरहनु भएको स्थिति देखिन्छ। त्यो कुरा भियतनाममा पनि देखिन्छ, साउथ इस्ट एसियन कन्ट्री, थाइल्यान्ड, तपाईँ इभन मलेसिया जस्ता मुलुकहरूमा पनि हामी त्यो पाउँछौँ। हाम्रो सन्दर्भमा पनि अब हामीले त्यो प्रायोरिटीमा जानै पर्छ। भलै त्यसको स्केल त्यति ठुलो नहोला, तर हाम्रो त्यो प्रायोरिटी कसरी गर्ने भन्दा अब समस्या हाम्रो फेरि पनि कहाँ आउँछ भने पोलिटिकल पोलराइजेसन। तपाईँ अहिले यहाँको भन्दा बढी, यति त हामी त यहाँ त बसेर कुरा गर्छौँ, हामी फरक फरक पार्टीका, तपाईँले विभिन्न मतलब चाहिँ देशमा जानुभयो भने उहाँहरू एक ठाउँमा बस्न पनि तयार हुनु। त्यति तिक्तता हिसाबको राजनीतिकरण चाहिँ त्यहाँ भएको छ डायस्पोराकै बिचमा। त्यस हुनाले त्यसलाई पनि हामीले अलिकति होइन, तपाईँहरू त पहिलो त नेपाल हो, नेपाली हो, यहाँ आइसकेपछि त्यो हुनुहोस्, अनि त्यसपछि मात्रै कुनै विचार कहाँ के भन्नुहोस् न। हामी देशभित्र त विवाद गर्दा गर्दै झगडा गर्दा गर्दै बस्छौँ एक ठाउँमा, यहाँ किन गर्नुहुन्न भन्नुपर्ने अवस्थामा उहाँहरू हुनुहुन्छ। त्यस भएको हुनाले त्यो खालको एउटा विषय छ। अर्को एनआरएन, म यहाँ अलिकति तपाईँले भनिहाल्नु, म जोड्छु, किनभने म त्यो सेक्टर पनि हेरिरहेको छु मेरो पार्टीको। यो एनआरएनको विषयमा पनि हामीले एउटा कमन धारणा बनाउनु जरुरी छ, एउटा कमन प्लेटफर्म। त्यस्तो एउटा सभ्यतालाई प्रमोट गर्ने, ल्याङ्ग्वेजलाई प्रमोट गर्ने, हाम्रो कतिपय राम्रा परम्परालाई प्रमोट गर्ने ती देशहरूमा त्यस्ता कमन ठाउँहरू चाहिन्छन्। अरू देशको छ त्यस्तो
डायस्पोराको लाइक when there is election, like
हामीले टाइममा गराइरहेको छैन।
parties leaders they go and support certain candidates.
त्यही इलेक्सन पनि फेयर र मतलब चाहिँ फ्री एन्ड फेयरमा गराइदिउँ न, त्यति मात्रै गराउँदाखेरि पनि हुन्थ्यो नि। हामीले त्यो इलेक्सन पनि रोकिरहेका छौँ। त्यसो भएको हुनाले ती खालका कामहरू नगरौँ। त्यो प्लेटफर्मलाई एउटा हेल्दी प्लेटफर्म, कमन प्लेटफर्म, जहाँ जो आओस् इन्डिभिजुअली तर त्यसको विधि र विधानभित्र रहेर चलोस् भन्ने प्रक्रियामा अगाडि बढाइदिउँ। मलाई लाग्छ त्यो एउटा स्टार्टिङ पोइन्ट हो। डायस्पोराको बिचको कामलाई कमन प्लेटफर्म नबनाइकन काम अगाडि जान्छ।
This is a soft part of the foreign policy because which will not damage any country, north or south and so on. So, Honorable Raj Kishore, there were a lot of talk about connectivity, different physical connectivity, Purvadar, infrastructure connectivity with north and south and rail and so on. So, and if you see the forecast, by 2030, India will have 800 gigawatt of installation of energy, solar, wind, and so on. Nepal will have probably 8 gigawatt. So 1% of India's installation capacity. And recently, there was a big news in Nepali newspaper, Nepali हाम्रो newspaper मा, नेपाल चाहिँ इन्डियाको ऊर्जा मार्केटमा पार्टिसिपेट भयो, 15-15 मिनटको स्लटमा बेच्न पाउने भन्ने भयो। म भर्खरै जर्मनीमा गएर मैले त्यही पढ्न गएको थिएँ, मैले त्यहाँ मेरो डिफ्रेन्ट ओपिनियन भएर आयो। सो इट्स अ भेरी रिस्की। अहिले स्विडेनमा लास्ट मन्थमा 6 स्विडेन करोड पर युनिट तिरेछन् स्विडेनका मान्छेले। जर्मनको मान्छे धनी, सबै बिजुली किन्ने, उनलाई महँगो पार्नु बेच्नु पर्यो। त्यहाँ यो कनेक्टिभिटीको इस्यु लङ टर्ममा, चाहे ट्रेन होस् चाहे विद्युत होस्, बिकज यु हेभ टु सेल वेन यु हेभ सरप्लस। त्यो त नत्र त सरप्लस छ, मेरो घरमा दुध धेरै छ भने कि दही जमाउने, दही जमाएर बाँकी रह्यो भने मैले बेच्ने नै। अब यो यसमा कसरी अब डिफ्रेन्ट पोलिटिकल पार्टिजको, अब यहाँ पनि एक्सपर्ट हो हाम्रो दीपक सर हुनुहुन्छ, सबैको डिफ्रेन्ट ओपिनियन छ। हाउ क्यान दिस पोलिटिकल पार्टी इन द कन्टेक्स्ट अफ फरेन पोलिसीमा, फेरि यो त हाम्रो मात्रै होइन कुरा, दे क्यान नेभिगेट, लाइक कसरी चाहिँ यसलाई स्मार्ट वेमा म्यानेज गर्न सक्ला?
थ्याङ्क यू। म योभन्दा अगाडि पनि हाम्रो कमन बिन्दु के हुनसक्छ नेपालको फरेन पोलिसीको कुरा गरिरहँदा मलाई के लाग्छ भने अहिले हामी ट्रान्जिसनल फेजमा छौँ, पोलिटिकली पनि र इकोनोमिकली पनि र सोसियली पनि।
अहिले 20 वर्ष भयो ट्रान्जिसनमै छौँ।
होइन त्यो त्यो
होइन छौँ, इट्स अ रियालिटी,
यो रियालिटी हो। र यसलाई के गर्छ भने अब एक प्रकारको दबाब अहिले आफ्टर यो जुन लास्ट इलेक्सन भयो त्यसपछि प्रत्येक दलभित्र दुईटा कुरा, पुस्तान्तरण र रूपान्तरणको बहस भएको छ। भलै त्यो बाहिर नदेखे पनि भित्रभित्र यो चाहिँ एक प्रकारको दबाबको रूपमा देखा परेछ। मलाई के लाग्छ भने यो फरेन पोलिसीमा पनि यसले इम्प्याक्ट पार्ने हो। यहाँले भने जस्तै हिजो हाम्रो फरेन पोलिसीको सेन्टर पोइन्टमा के हुन्थ्यो भने अब एकदम त्यो राष्ट्रवादसँग जोडेर कुन देशसँग कस्तो सम्बन्ध राख्ने। आज हाम्रो फरेन पोलिसीमा अब हाम्रो इकोनोमिक एक्टिभिटिजहरू, डेभलपमेन्टहरू कसरी हुने, त्यसैले अब मलाई लाग्छ नेपालसँग भएका हाम्रो जुन सामर्थ्य छ नि त्यसलाई हामीले स्मार्ट वेमा अब अन्य मुलुकसँग डिल गर्नुपर्ने र त्यसलाई अगाडि राख्नुपर्ने। त्यो भनेको पहिलो मैले भने अब इकोनोमिक डिप्लोमेसीलाई हामीले प्रायोरिटाइज गरेर अगाडि राख्नु पर्यो। र जस्तै ग्रिन इनर्जीको कुरा गर्नुभयो, मलाई लाग्छ त्यसमा हामी च्याम्पियन हुन सक्छौँ। अरू चिज त अहिले जसरी भारत र चीन या अरू अन्य मुलुकहरू जसरी अगाडि बढ्दैछ त्यसमा हाम्रो नेपालले केमा च्याम्पियन हुने भने ग्रिन इनर्जीमा हामी गर्न सक्छौँ। क्लाइमेट चेन्जको जुन अहिले ग्लोबल लेभलमा क्लाइमेट चेन्ज एन्ड ग्लोबल वार्मिङको कुरा हुँदैछ त्यसमा हामी किन क्लेम नगर्ने। मलाई लाग्छ यसमा कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी पनि, काङ्ग्रेस पनि र हामीहरू पनि, त्यसमा त कुनै पोलिटिकल आइडियोलोजीले त्यहाँ रिफ्लेक्ट गर्दैन।
तर पोलिटिकल पार्टी बिज दे हेभ नट स्टार्टेड डिस्कसन अन द्याट।
होइन यो अब मलाई लाग्छ यहाँहरू जस्तो हुन त यहाँ पनि अब कुनै पार्टीको, तर यहाँहरू जस्तो एक्सपर्टहरूले, स्कलरहरूले या अलिकति यसमा कहीँ न कहीँ त्यो गरिदिनु पर्ने। मलाई लाग्छ यो विषय अब यदि हामीले एक प्रकारको पोजिटिभ वेमा पार्टीभित्र पनि पार्टी बाहिर पनि एक प्रकारको इन्भाइरोमेन्ट माहौल बनायो भने मलाई लाग्छ यो कमन बिन्दु हाम्रो हुनसक्छ। किनभने सबै पार्टीभित्र इभन गभर्मेन्टमा जानुभन्दा अगाडि एकदम ठुला ठुला क्रान्तिकारी कुरा गर्ने, तर गभर्मेन्टमा गइसकेपछि रियलिस्टिक र प्र्याग्मेटिक के हो भने अब इम्प्लोइमेन्टको कसरी जेनेरेट गर्ने, युवाहरूलाई आफ्नै देशमा रोजगारी कसरी सिर्जना गर्ने, या गुड हेल्थ क्वालिटीको हेल्थ या क्वालिटीको एजुकेसन कसरी दिने, इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चरहरू कसरी गर्ने, पैसा कहाँबाट ल्याउने, यो प्रमुख विषयहरू बन्दो रहेछ। सरकारमा जानुभन्दा अगाडि ठुला ठुला क्रान्तिकारी सपनाहरू बाँड्दो रहेछ, तर सरकारमा गइसकेपछि
रियालिटीसित नजिक
रियालिटी त्यो फेस गर्नुपर्ने रहेछ। त्यसैले मलाई के लाग्छ भने यदि हामीले हिजो जे भयो भयो, अब चाहिँ हामीले डेभलपमेन्टलाई केन्द्रबिन्दुमा राखेर, जस्तै हाम्रा एम्बेसिजहरू बाहिर यहाँले भने जस्तै एक्टिभिटी छैन, के गर्ने त? उनीहरूले त्यो विषय हुनु पऱ्यो नि उसँग, अरूसँग कुरा गर्न।
भाडा त दिएर छैन टाइममा बेसीको।
त्यसैले मलाई के लाग्छ भने उनीहरूले जस्तै अब एउटा त मुलुक जसरी उसलाई क्याटेगराइज गर्नु पर्यो, कुन मुलुकसँग हामी के डिल गर्ने, त्यसमा एउटा हाम्रो नेपालले एक्सपोर्ट के गर्ने हो, के छ, र हाम्रो एक्सपोर्ट गर्ने मुलुकहरू के छ, जस्तै इन्डिया, अमेरिका, जर्मनी या युरोपमा अहिले या दुबईमा हामी केही सामानहरू पठाइरहेका छौँ। इम्पोर्ट हामी कहाँबाट गर्दो रहेछौँ, त्यो इम्पोर्ट गर्ने कन्ट्रीहरूलाई कसरी डिल गर्ने। त्यसपछि हाम्रो लेबर, आज हामीले भारत चाहिँ मुन मिसन अन्तर्गत चन्द्रयान तेस्रोलाई चन्द्रमामा पठाइसक्यो। हामी आफ्नो युवाहरूलाई शर्मयान बनाएर कतार, दुबई होइन मुलुकहरू पठाइरहेका छौँ। यही यथार्थ आज हाम्रो। त्यसैले ती मुलुकहरूसँग कसरी डिल गर्ने। र तेस्रो अब अहिले जस्तै भारतसँग अहिले हाम्रो हाइड्रोको जसरी भयो र यहाँ ठुलो भनौँ न, त्यो डिललाई हामी नेपालको पक्षमा बढीभन्दा बढी यहाँहरू जस्तो एक्सपर्टहरूलाई सल्लाह लिएर, कुनै पार्टी विशेषको होइन कि, त्यो नेपाल सरकारले भारतसँग कुरा गर्दा त्यो नेपालको हितमा बढीभन्दा बढी, किनभने त्यो त एक प्रकारको नेगोसिएसन स्मार्टली त्यसलाई कसरी गर्न सकिन्छ, मलाई लाग्छ त्यसमा हाम्रो अहिले सबै प्रकारको ऊर्जा, बुद्धि, विवेक त्यो फोकस गर्नुपर्ने हो। बाहिर बसेर कुरा गरेर होइन कि हामीले अन्य मुलुकहरूसँग हाम्रो प्रायोरिटिज के हो। जस्तै अमेरिकासँग हाम्रो सम्बन्ध कुन कुन विषयलाई हामीले त्यहाँ प्रायोरिटाइजमा राख्ने भने, भारत र चीनसँग गर्दा के हाम्रो
आफ्नो प्रायोरिटी चाहिँ कन्टेक्स्ट
के हुने, त्यो प्रायोरिटिजहरू छुट्याउनु पर्यो।
हस्, थ्याङ्क यू। म फेरि आउँछु अहिले पछि। डाक्टर पोखरेल, regarding connectivity, especially transmission line and railways line, I mean, maybe the Ramayana circuit and Buddha circuit, many circuits. So is Nepal actually smart enough to navigate in these types of issues? Or if not, what should be the way forward?
Connectivity, yes, we have to increase connectivity. You cannot remain closed. So that's for sure. And for trade and interactions that you want to do with the world, you have to do it. So connectivity is a major thing. That part, I think, is said. Let me pick up a little bit with the diaspora thing.
Okay.
Nepal is actually geographically probably remains the same limited border, but virtually it is expanded all over the world. So there is two Nepal. Geographically bounded Nepal and virtual Nepal. Now I think these two combined can make a very formidable force actually to navigate, let's use this word, navigate the nation. So we should take it positively, that's how I take it. Yesterday, I think one of the sessions was focused on soft power. And education was taken as an example of soft power. So I think this is a very interesting way of increasing your soft power. Now, imagine in the White House, I don't know, other colleagues might be able to say more about this authoritatively, but I heard that the dinner set was for Modi ji was what? Vegetarian food, okay? White House, vegetarian dinner. And of course there was music and things, all classical music, etc. What does that mean? Basically the influence, the soft side of influence has increased. So, Nepali diaspora is a very,
there was a
very
Rudri Puja in White
lot
House
of
as well.
potential for soft power increase of the nation, provided we are prudent enough to cultivate them, use them as a nation. The second thing I think is let's keep in mind this virtual and geographic thing. This is going to affect our thinking, our politics, our future. How do we harmonize understanding between virtual Nepal and geographic? I think that's a
That
positive.
is regarding
And
the diaspora.
again, here, connectivity, communication, and of course, understanding is a major thing. Technology, I think that's something we have forgotten as a force to navigate this nation. For this small nation, probably small nation, between two nations, probably technology is something we should keep in mind all the
But I
time.
mean,
Thank you.
let me say something. I mean, when there was a discussion or at least plan to connect Kathmandu with train from Kerung, and there is a transmission line plan from New Butawal to Gorakhpur. I think very few people discuss about the cost, benefit, technical feasibility, rather than bringing it a big issue, political issue, and also maybe also impacting in our foreign policy. So how this connectivity can be, I mean, handled in this foreign policy
How to
aspect?
manage
Manage that
connectivity,
one, yeah.
the kind of flow of people, the kind of flow of ideas, the kind of flow of goods and products that's going to overwhelm our nation. How are you going to manage it? Moreover, strategically, there might be something which we call balancing. How will be balancing out? I think these are the challenges the leadership will have to take. One thing is for sure, as Dr. Rizal has just mentioned, and Dr. Bhattarai also, this nation is moving along, or the taking steps towards democratic system of governance. It wants to move democratically. Therefore, some of the basic elements of democracy should be kept in mind whenever we accept whatever support, whatever we do here. In the name of development, no authoritarianism. I think that is what is rejected from this nation. Okay? Diversity.
But the MCC has one advantage because it has brought all discussion regarding foreign aid to Nepal.
Yes.
And many people have visited those bilateral joint financial agreement of like 17, 20 years before. That was a good academic
Dr.
exercise.
Just
Yeah.
one more line, just to conclude my statement. Be transparent. Be very transparent. Who you are going to deal with, who is going to be your partner, how that is going to affect your future. If this leadership, which is already not octogenarian, probably, what, heptagenarian at least, they will not be ruling this country after, let's say, a decade. This country belongs to the future of this young population.
They are only
Younger.
78,
They
79, still 5 more years. Yeah.
They have to know. They have to know what kind of agreement we are doing, how we are negotiating, who we are negotiating it, and what is the cost for them.
Okay.
Okay? I think that's very important. Wherever we do, whatever policy
Right.
we take, for connectivity also, same thing applies.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So coming back, adding one, the prosperity in modern society can be achieved by movement of goods, movement of people, movement of ideas, and movement of money. So how our foreign policy can deal with this? Because we have movement of goods, trade deficit, very less export. We have movement of people, 50, I mean more than certain million people are abroad. Every day people are moving, like their private colleges are empty now. And the movement of money, they are taking away rather than coming as a FDI here. And movement of ideas, many IT people like Nepal, they officially now they earn around nearly $250 million US dollar by $250 million, yeah. I mean around 67 billion Nepali rupees by selling IT product. That is movement of ideas. So how our foreign policies should, I mean, at least incorporate these types of things, because that is totally lacking.
Uh,
Because a small country, landlocked country should also consider these types of issues.
Yeah. Let me talk about two things. One, since Rajanji talked about what he did, what they did while they were running the country, I could probably, in the same breath, start talking about what we did when we were there. That's not going to help much, right? But one thing I need to say, not because I am from a different political party, when you talk about mobility, if you're thinking of moving things, then to me, when I look at China, I do not see myself taking a train and going to China. For somebody whose hometown in Biratnagar, I would love to see Kosi Highway built sooner. I would love to see Rasuagadi Naka opened. I'd love to see Gandaki corridor built. I'd love to see Karnari corridor built. Rather than talking about the highways and how we can open up with China's, we're talking about railway connection, and we have not even done detailed project report. And for that also, it's going to take another how many years, we do not know. And then we are saying that this is the most visionary thing we have done. If that is the most visionary thing, then, excuse me, I am not one of those visionaries. I'd rather be not a visionary and say that I rather have motorable roads going to China, that's going to open my border to China, than talking about the rails that are not going to come. We have to somehow leave this mindset. I was a small kid. I was a high schooler. I come from Biratnagar. I saw one poster. I mean, this is, I'm saying the real story. And then the poster had, Agnew is a black snake. I said, what is it? I mean, I come from Biratnagar. Snake bite, still a problem. Back then, this is 1970 I'm talking about. I was a high schooler. It was a huge problem. And I came home running. What is this Agnew? What type of snake is it? And then my father answered back to me, no, this is US Vice President who is visiting Nepal for a day. And we are still in that mindset. That has not gone away. Whether we get visitors from south or from north or from anywhere. A group of us are saying that this is a black snake. The other group is saying that, no, I'm ready to embrace them. He or she is the most, is a Messiah who is bringing the best messages for Nepal. Hope for Nepal. And as long as we do that, we're not going to get anywhere. We have to change that mindset. So, if you say, how can all political parties sit down and have a consensus on foreign policy, let's first simply forget whether we are for NAM or the Panchashil, is it Panchashil or not, when your party gets to send a prime minister, whether he's going to go to India or China, to the US or the moon first. If we talk about what is it that we be doing as a nation, and within that package, what is it that we'll be asking India for their support, what is it for which we'll be asking China for their support, and what is it that we'll be asking other countries for. And if we start doing that, then I think it probably would be a lot easier to get a consensus. Otherwise, if we start saying, are you as communist as the other communists are? If I ask that question, even if he's not as communist as some of the communists that we are partnered with in the government, he cannot still afford to say, I'm less of a communist than the ones that you have in the government. We just need to cast that off, get out of that discussion, get out of that debate, and then we say we are, let's talk development.
European Union blacklisted our aviation. Our diplomacy was diplomatic missions there, or civil aviation authority who were not capable to.
I'll just stop you there. It's not just because of, that's not an example, that's not a glaring example of failing of our diplomacy.
No,
Then that's a failing of our air safety.
Yeah.
Let's take care of that first.
Yeah, but look, a German guy or Sweden guy, if he or she wants to come to Nepal, it costs around $8,000. A trip, flight and so on. So if he or she wants to go to Mallorca, maybe it's $2,000. So they are not coming to Nepal because of the flight is so expensive.
But I guess, I mean, if air safety is not, if we are not safe while flying, our aircrafts, our choppers, then how long can we be deceiving the ones who would like to come here and tell them that we are very safe? Our choppers are very safe, just come.
And coming back,
We cannot do that.
Then again, Bhairava and Pokhara. This is also because it helps movement of the people. Why we are not resolving? Where is our diplomatic failure? I mean,
I have a fundamental question. Since you are former vice chairman of the National Planning Commission, Jagdish ji is former vice chairman of National Planning Commission. I didn't get to become that. I was just a member of National. I'm former member of National Planning Commission of Nepal. Why did we build Bhairava Airport? Because ADB was willing to invest. Why did we build Pokhara Airport? Because Chinese were willing to invest. Do you think about why do we need it? What are we going to do with it? We never thought about that. Today, I guess the biggest problem is the governance. I mean, we will build anything. We'll say we'll build anything. As long as it does not require us to build it, but as long as there is something to be made out of it.
No, but the problem is already there. So what is why it needs to be resolved because the Indian planes are not coming to Pokhara.
I'm not saying that it does not need to be resolved, but I guess, should we not have started? We knew Bhairava Airport would be ready one day, right? This is my party's failing also. But did we talk about the air route with the Indians?
Before restarting it, yeah.
Long before, getting it ready, we did not. Long before getting Pokhara Airport ready, did we talk about how we're going to land our aircrafts there? We did not. That does not absolve my political party for not doing what it did. It should have done in the past. We are all culprits in it.
Okay, thank you. So, coming back to Dr. Rajan Bhattrai, and same question like those four things, movement of people, because we need tourism, investors, movement of people from India, China, or European countries, movement of goods, our export, because the tea we cannot export easily, we have to rely on other traders, and many things, honey we cannot export to Europe easily, there are certain issues, including technical and other things. Movement of money, FDI is not coming, and movement of ideas. Maybe we are not taking too much good advice from other countries. So how can our foreign policy at least help in these issues?
Thank you. I think let me say something in regards to this. I go what Dr. Rizal just said. I didn't want to bring the list of what we have completed during our time. It was asked me. He was asked. That's why I put it. That's the one thing. Second thing, when you brought the, you have brought this issue, then I have to say something. Now I am compelled to say something. When it comes to prioritizing the development agenda, I think we have done and we have brought. We have not discussed only about the rail and rail coming from the north. I think you forget or you just purposefully doesn't want to tell that. We have also wanted to bring rail from the south. And that's the DPR which has been completed and now on the table of the government. That's how we are going to implement on that. That was negotiated during our time. We negotiated the pipeline, the petroleum pipeline from Roxol to Kathmandu. We negotiated and we completed the cross-border transmission line.
Roxol to Amlekganj.
Roxol to Amlekganj earlier, and then the cross-border transmission line.
That was already in 2015 when Congress and UML were in government.
Muzaffarpur to Dhalkebar, the cross-border transmission line. We all are political party leaders here. That's why we have our own list. That's why I didn't want to bring this earlier. Yeah. But when he has brought me, then I have to say this. Then we also discussed and did negotiation cross-border transmission line with China, as well as the railway possibility with China. We have not paid any cost for that. They are paying for even for the preliminary studies and also the secondary, the DPR for that purpose. Now, the government, we are not in government, and you are in government. If you want to pursue it, pursue it. If you don't want, you can stop it. That's the not. I mean, we are in opposition, and from our time, we thought that is the both way connectivity, enhancing connectivity, not today's agenda for tomorrow's. That same way, on the road connectivity, we have enhanced road connectivity with the south as well as with the north. You all know that the upgradation of the Arniko Highway, that was we negotiated. The Rasuagadi, we negotiated. And then the Kimathanka and Corolla Naka, policy level, in policy level, we have agreed.
Okay, thank you. I'm coming back to the another very important.
Let me complete it. That's why I'm saying it's list. I know. List is long. That's why you are asked me to say it. Now I'm going to stop it. When it comes to goods and all these things, Dr. Pokhrel, I think what we need is the domestic environment is always has to be more conducive, whatever mobility you want to increase on your country. When your government is not stable, when your government, changes of the government becomes quite regular. That was the, issue we had dealt in the 90s and up to early 21st century. And again, we made new constitution, and all we promised to the public that we will give you the stable government, we will maintain stability, but we failed to do that. When we fail to do that, then ultimately that hampers to our all these mobilities. Whatever you say, this trade or money or people or whatever way you can say. So for that, to create conducive environment, how we are going to make the stable political environment. For that, our current electoral system, I think that we have to go back to the basic. The current electoral system where we have a 60 and 40, the 60 past the post and 40 proportionate does not give the absolute majority to any party. Even given to the absolute majority, sometimes we fail to maintain that. But at least there is a much hope there than this fragile coalition that has to be maintained. So when we discuss about all this I think that even the consistency on foreign policy, stability on our policy issues, and coherence on our policy issues, all this comes when we resolve these basic issues, and I will go back to, let's start to debate on that issue. Thank you very much.
Okay, so next question, Honorable Raj Kishore Manneju, SARC र BIMSTEC जुन छ दुईटा, because SARC meeting was held when Dr. Rizal was communication minister in 2015 in Kathmandu. After that, I think there was no meeting of SARC. Do we need it, or how can we, make it functional like a small country? Because Nepal may need, because Nepal needs it. Because of its interest of a small country. कसरी जानु पर्ला अब हामीले बिमस्टेकको पनि साइन गर्यौं, it has not brought that much result. सार्क यस्तो साउथ एसियामा भएको यत्रो इन्स्टिट्युसनलाई के छ, नेपालको त्यति डिप्लोमेसी पनि पुगेन कि के हो? यो चाहिँ नेपालको चाहिँ फरेन पोलिसी अलि विक भयो कि नेपालको ग्रेभिटी अफ नेपालिज फरेन पोलिसी अलिकति हल्का भयो कि के भयो? हामी चाहिँ कसरी, हाउ क्यान वी इम्प्रुभ इट?
मलाई लाग्छ सार्क आज जुन अवस्थामा छ यो एक प्रकारको कन्स्पिरेसी हैन, इन्टरनेसनल उसमा एउटा मुलुकको बिचमा जुन प्रकारको अविश्वास, जुन प्रकारको एक प्रकारको प्रतिद्वन्द्वता बढ्यो त्यसको शिकार भयो र नेपालको सार्क कसरी फङ्सन हुन्छ, सार्कको फङ्सनिङको लागि नेपालले जसरी खेल्नुपर्ने भूमिका त्यसमा कहीँ न कहीँ कमजोरी भएकै हो। अब हामीले यो हाम्रो जुन पोजिसन छ त्यसमा हामीले अलि विश्वासका साथ अलिकति स्मार्टली यो दुईटाको बिचमा एउटा पुलको काम गरिदिएको भए या जुन प्रकारको कन्फ्लिक्ट छ त्यो कन्फ्लिक्टलाई रिजोल्भ गर्नको लागि जसरी पहल कदमी गर्नु पर्थ्यो त्यसमा कमी भयो जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई। र ठ्याक्कै सार्कलाई एक प्रकारको रिप्लेस भनौँ या त्यसको एक प्रकारको विरुद्धमा भनौँ हैन, जसरी आयो र त्यसमा पनि नेपाल एकदम खुसी जबकि त्यहाँ त्यो डिबेटमा नेपालले आफ्नो पक्ष राख्नु पर्थ्यो क्या, किनभने सार्क निर्माण गर्न नेपालको जुन प्रकारको इनिसिएसन थियो या महत्त्वपूर्ण भूमिका थियो, एक प्रकारको लिडरसिप जसरी नेपालले देखाएको थियो त्यो लिडरसिपको अनरसिप लिन पर्थ्यो जस्तो
हाम्रो चाहिँ सायद यो गम्भीरता भन्छ नि हाम्रो ग्रेभिटी अफ फरेन पोलिसी अर फरेन मिनिस्टर हाम्रो अलिकति ओज नै फरेन पोलिसीमा अब जो पाए मान्छे फरेन मिनिस्टर पनि भइहाल्ने हाम्रो ओजमा अलिकति कम आएको हो कि हाम्रो फरेन पोलिसीमा यसमा के छ पोलिटिकल पार्टीहरू यसमा सिरियस हुनु पर्दैन त
निश्चित रूपमा मलाई के लाग्छ भने यो पछिल्लो जुन हाम्रो पोलिटिकल चेन्जेसहरू भयो हामीले विषयगत विषय फोकस गर्नु पर्थ्यो त्यसभन्दा पनि हामी डोमेस्टिक उसमा कन्फ्लिक्टमा बढी या इन्ट्रेस्टमा बढी केन्द्रित भयो जस्तो लाग्यो जसरी महत्त्व दिनु पर्थ्यो अहिलेको जुन प्रकारको विश्व राजनीति जसरी बढिरहेको छ र त्यसमा हामीले फरेन पोलिसीले जसरी महत्त्व दिनु पर्थ्यो त्यसलाई हामीले अलिक कम दियौँ र डोमेस्टिक अरू अरू विषयलाई बढी महत्त्व दियो जसको कारणले उसले जसरी भूमिका खेल्नु पर्थ्यो फरेन मिनिस्टरले या फरेन त्यसमा फरेन पोलिसीमा जस्तै हामी एम्बेसडरहरू नियुक्त गर्दा त्यसका कुनै निश्चित मापदण्ड या एक्सपिरियन्स या त्यो प्रकारको भनौँ न दलगत हिसाबमा आफूलाई अनुकूल हुने या दलमा पनि त्यो समूह या नेताको अनुकूलतामा हामीले धेरै निर्णयहरू गर्ने गरेका छौँ जसको कहीँ न कहीँ काम कारबाहीमा प्रभावकारिता कमजोर भयो र ग्लोबल लेभलमा या अन्य मुलुकहरूले त्यसको विश्वसनीयतामा पनि
अब हामी हाई स्कुलको प्रधानाध्यापकलाई एम्बेसडर बनाएर पठाउँछौँ
निश्चित रूपमा यो एकदम
त्यो डिस्प्लेस गर्न खोज्या होइन तर त्यो किसिमको वेटेज जुन नेपालको छ फरेन पोलिसीमा यसलाई चाहिँ अब सर्टेन क्राइटेरिया बनाएर कसरी जान सक्छ यो त पोलिटिकल पार्टिजको कुरा हो
मलाई लाग्छ त्यसको लागि त यो पार्लियामेन्टभित्र डिस्कसन गरेर निश्चित ल नै निर्माण गरेर त्यसका मापदण्डहरू त्यसका क्वालिफिकेसन र एक्सपिरियन्स त्यसका एक्सपर्टिजहरू के राख्ने होइन अहिलेको सन्दर्भमा त्यो गर्न सकिन्छ अर्को कुरा जस्तै केही चिजहरू नेपालको लागि यो एकदम सेन्सिटिभ इस्युज हो होइन त्यो सेन्सिटिभिटीलाई कसरी हामी लिने त्यो सवालमा अलि सिरियस हुनु पर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ
हस् हस् धन्यवाद म डाक्टर पोखरेलसँग फेरि आएँ हाउ क्यान वी आई मिन युटिलाइज आवर सफ्ट पावर एन्ड पब्लिक डिप्लोमेसी लाइक रिलेसन पिपल टु पिपल बिजनेस टु बिजनेस informal channel, how can we, I mean, are there prospects for that or can it resolve those, the lost gravity of our foreign policy, of government at least?
Well, I don't know whether this kind of non-governmental side sort of engagement will actually affect, but again, it will certainly bring out the issues, the weaknesses, where we need to sort of perform better. There might be lessons. Issue is not only the...
हजुरकै PWG को question आउँदैछ चाँडै आउनु पर्छ
It's not only the appointments, etc. It is the whole domestic political context. I think that's something we should keep in mind. What I think is we did start this non-governmental track 3, track 4, civil society organizations, business organizations talking to each other. These things were happening. Actually, it's after COVID, I think it has subsided a lot. Otherwise, even before that, I can remember FNCCI people you were talking to across the border, either side with their counterparts. They were coming up with some ideas for investment or for moving forward, even influencing the foreign policy. Independent power producers, they were talking directly to their counterparts across the border on both sides. I mean, these things were happening. Even civil society organizations like NGOs, human rights organizations.
Are political parties utilizing this soft power?
What happened here is somehow 1990s and say about 2 decades, civil society, the way it flourished, and non-governmental way of doing things, okay, the way they used to influence, that mode had changed. NGO, civil society organizations, either they are fatigued, tired, or grown old. They don't have the same kind of spontaneity, vigor, zeal to affect the government policy, be it domestic or international. Okay, This is happening almost everywhere. So probably after 2.5 decades of exercising this democratic, liberal sort of exercise that we did to influence the state, okay, to influence the state policies, probably the time has changed. We revisit that modality. Maybe we can come up with something that is even better. But it is something that can be done and should be done. And this technology, particularly communication, information technology proliferation, and the upcoming artificial intelligence type of technology development does give us much powerful, much more powerful sort of tool to make this thing happen. Being in Nepal, but communicating.
Like lots of FDI is coming to India, and you can have at least business to business link with, so that they can have accessory manufacturing investment in Nepal. So such, regardless of our political discourse and political discontent, the business group people can manage that type of relationship.
Yeah, of course. Thing is, we should not be too much affected by what is happening currently. Okay, it's a COVID and then other things that has affected us. That does not mean we start from zero. Okay, whatever we are discussing here in terms of policy, international, national, is not a blank paper that we are writing things. Things have happened in the past. We have negotiated certain policies. We have actually negotiated with countries on either sides. And there are lessons to learn. We have knowledge. We have history. We know. We have to build on those things. I think we should not take this approach that there is nothing has happened, everything has gone. Now we have the privilege to start anew. That's not what it is. There is a continuity. It's a reform. It's a constant incremental changes for
Okay, thank you.
Try for presenting his point of view. But my worry is when I talked about talked about the railway connection with the north, he thought I was arguing for connection only with the south. I tell you very honestly, railway connection from Kathmandu to south is not a priority. Railway connection from Kathmandu to north is not a priority for me. Anything that north-south that passes through Kathmandu is not a priority. To me, if railway is priority, but east-west railway is a priority. When we talk about highways, Kosi corridor is important. Karnali corridor is important. Gandaki corridor is important. So let's not think of whether when we try to explain this debate as should we be connecting only with China, should we be connecting only with India, then probably we are not saying the right perspective or having the right perspective.
Okay, thank you, sir.
First, I was asked where do I stand on IPS? How important is that for us? At times, I rather not say, meaning I'm not just talking about me, myself. I'm talking about why do we need to drag ourselves on debate? Should Iran be in BRICS or not? IPS, will we be a part of, will we be joining military alliance if we sign on to MCC? Is that the debate that we should be having? I would learn. I think we'll be doing ourselves great service if we learn from Deng Xiaoping, who so eloquently said, I do not care what color the cat is as long as it catches mice. I don't care whether the money is coming from left, right, north, south, red, brown, as long as it helps our development. I don't want to drag myself in the discussions on which for absolutely no reason I have to be seen as taking sides. I'd rather take side of Nepal only. This is not a rhetoric. Let's talk about Nepal and then try to find out how India, China, and others can fit into that. Back then, Jeffrey Sachs said it so eloquently, immediately after we got democracy in 1990. Jagdish ji remembers, we worked together during those days. He was in India and he came to Nepal, I guess, and then somebody asked him, how can Nepal benefit from what's happening here in India? And they say, just enjoy the updraft. There must be something for you in the updraft. If you think there is nothing in the updraft, we'll be fools to believe that there is nothing. If we believe that there's nothing in India and China's emergence in the world today for Nepal, we'll be fools not to believe so. There must be something. If there is not something, it's our job to find out what's there in it for us. And we'll be better off talking about that than talking about IPS or global strategy or whatever. And then on the other one, are India and China important for us? You said they are important for us, but I mean, are we important for them? I think I answered that question also by implication when I said on Kalapani, Limpuadura, and Lipu Lake, as long as public pronouncement is concerned, they are in the same page, and we are in the different page. So what that basically means is we are important for them. It's not that we are not at all, but we are not as important as we'd like to believe that we should be. So we better put our acts together and try to be as important as we'd like to see ourselves to become to them. And on EPG also, on this one also, do we need to publish it? Do we not need to publish it? The ones who think that this should be published today, on the left. The ones who think that it should not be published, on the right. What is that going to buy for me? I mean, we are just trying, I mean, we always play into the hands of others, and then what happens is they will try to frame the debate in a way, and then we just simply go there and then be very vocal and make our point of view there. Can we not change the debate at all? Let's look at what is in the EPZ, one issue at a time, and on that issue, where do we stand? On that issue, Mr. Modi, where are you? Mr. Xi, where are you? Mr. Falna, where are you? Rather than saying and taking the big issue, EPG, should it be public, should it not be public? If it should be public, whose fault is it? Is it our fault or India's fault? And by framing the debate in that fashion, we're not going to get anything out of it. So we rather frame it so that it would be beneficial to us. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Dr. Bhattarai, a member of EPG.
There is one question in regards to this IPS, Indo-Pacific strategy. My point is that Nepal's foreign policy, some of the fundamentals, if they does not contradict, then we can be positive towards that kind of organization. What are those fundamentals? The fundamentals, one of the fundamentals is that we will not be aligned with any of the military type of blocs, which contradicts to our constitutions and also the very fundamental values of our foreign policy. Some people are starting to debate about whether we need to maintain that or not. In my perspective, I mean, as a student of that subject, international relations, I think given our geographical location, we have to maintain that neutrality, friendship with all, enmity with none, or amity with all, enmity with none. That policy needs to be enhanced and promoted. And that, if that does not contradict, then we can be the friend and part of that, any type of non-military blocs. That's what I say. In regards to the second EPG, I think the EPG, whether the report is published or not, I think that's not the big issue to me. To me is that it was the first such type of initiative that was taken by both India and China in a highest level.
India and Nepal.
Sorry, India and Nepal in a highest level. And that has to be, whatever it was agreed, that needs to be honored. India, they have, agreed to form it and even allow 4 people to work as a group of 8. And we have come up with a consensus on those reports, which has dealt most of the issues that Nepal, India has been dealing in the last 70 years. That includes trade, transit, water resources, 1950 treaty, boundary issue, all these issues, and there are to some extent some understanding has been reached on that. So why not to, take that report? That is, or accept that report. That is the big question. Publishing or not publishing, that is,
I mean,
I don't want to go
accept,
that much.
my point is accept is publishing. When it is accepted, it will be published anyway.
No. Accepted means that it's not naturally it will be published. The government has to, give permission, allow, whether government will allow to publish it or not, that depends on government decision.
Okay. So one question I like when the Ukraine was attacked, it's very controversial when I'm asking. Ukraine was attacked by Russia, and the opinion in Nepali intellectuals and political parties were not clear as well. Can you also clarify that one, including all those questions? जब रुसले उक्रेनमाथि अतिक्रमण गर्यो ठुलो राष्ट्रले सानो राष्ट्रमा नेपालमा अलिकति नेपालीहरूको अचम्मको किसिमको मनस्थिति देखिएको थियो अलिक स्पष्ट बोल्न नसक्ने किन त्यस्तो थियो त्यो पनि अलिकति यहाँले भनिदिनु पर्ला
अब हामी एउटा त हाम्रो फरेन पोलिसीको एकदम फन्डामेन्टल कुरा के हो भने नन एलाइनमेन्ट हामी कुनै प्रकारको मिलिट्री एक्सनलाई स्वीकार्दैनौँ त्यसैले त्यो कुरामा पनि नेपालको स्ट्यान्ड क्लियर हुनुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई
ठुलो राष्ट्रले सानो राष्ट्रलाई त्यसरी ड्याममा आएर कब्जा गर्दाखेरि
हामी त राष्ट्रहरूको बिचमा त्यसरी वारै हुनु हुँदैन हैन त्यसका अरू मिन्सहरूबाट डिप्लोमेटिक टक हैन टेबल टकबाट समाधान गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने सोचका ऊ हौँ हैन हाम्रो फरेन पोलिसी त्यसरी ऊ गर्छ त्यसैले मलाई लाग्छ जसरी भयो त्यसमा नेपाल चाहिँ अब त्यो प्रकारको मिलिट्री एक्सनको पक्षमा नेपाल हुनु हुँदैन भन्ने एकदम क्लियर स्ट्यान्ड हो अब अर्को साथीले मलाई यो कुरा त मलाई लाग्छ यो क्वेसन सोध्नुको पछाडि नै एउटा माइन्डसेट देखियो म धन्यवाद थ्याङ्क यू जेन्टलम्यानलाई
बुझिहाल्यो
होइन तर त्यो क्वेसन मलाई भन्दा मलाई लाग्छ मोदीलाई र बिजेपीको नेपाल हेर्ने नेपाल हेर्ने होइन लाई सोध्यो भने त्यसले नेपाललाई र नेपालमा तराईलाई अलग्गै हेर्छ कि नेपाल होइन त्यो भ्युज हो जहाँसम्म मलाई के लाग्छ भने पहिले त हामी क्लियर हुनुपर्छ तराई पहाड काठमाडौँ हिमाल यो हाम्रो इन्टरनल कुरा हुन् भारतसँग कुरा गर्दा हामी नेपाल र नेपाली भएर कुरा गर्नुपर्छ त्यसैले उनीहरूले पनि नेपाललाई एउटै आँखाबाट हेर्नुपर्छ भन्ने क्लियर स्ट्यान्ड हो तर दुर्भाग्य के हो भने हाम्रो बुझाइ
फेरि भारतमा कुन पार्टी हुन्छ भन्ने हाम्रो चोइस होइन नि त भारतीय जनताको चोइस हो
चोइस पनि होइन तर तिनीहरूको फरेन पोलिसी त्यस्तै नै हो यो हाम्रो मलाई लाग्छ यो हाम्रो बुझाइले गर्दा एक प्रकारको अविश्वसनीयता बनिरहने हो त्यसैले अब तराई या काठमाडौँलाई भारतले एकै आँखाले हेर्छ र एकै आँखाले हेर्नुपर्छ भन्ने हाम्रो मान्यता हो हामीले दिल्लीलाई एउटा बिहारलाई अर्को गुजरातलाई अर्को आँखाले हेर्दैनौँ यो स्टेट टु स्टेट फरेन पोलिसीको कुरा गर्दा काठमाडौँ र दिल्लीको सम्बन्धको कुरा हुन्छ हो हाम्रो एकदम मल्टी डाइमेन्सनल मल्टिल्याटरल रिलेसन छ त्यसमा अब व्यक्तिगत कुरा हुनु एउटा हो तर फरेन पोलिसीको कुरा गर्दा इट इज भेरी सेन्सिटिभ एन्ड क्रुसियल त्यसैले हामी यो मामलामा कहिलेकाहीँ राजनीति मञ्चबाट पनि अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय सम्बन्धका बारेमा चर्का भाषण गर्दै
नेपालीहरू बीच एउटै
आफ्नो कार्यकर्तालाई उचाल्नको लागि यो दुर्भाग्य हो र नेपाल मलाई लाग्छ हाम्रो फरेन पोलिसीमा यहाँले जुन एउटा ग्रेभिटीको कुरा गर्नुभयो ओजको कुरा गर्नुभयो विश्वसनीयताको कुरा गर्नुभयो
कमजोर भएछ
त्यो हुनुका कारण त्यो पनि हो यो विषय हाम्रो यो डोमेस्टिक उसमा इन्फ्लुएन्स हुने विषय होइन भन्ने लाग्छ त्यसैले अब अर्कोचोटि मोदीजीलाई भेट्यो भने तपाईँले तराईलाई चाहिँ हेर्नुहुन्छ भन्ने सोधौला धन्यवाद नेपालले तर्फ त्यो इनिसिएसन सुरु गरिसकेको छ त्यसमा हामी अलिकति बी पोजिटिभ अलिकति मलाई लाग्छ थ्याङ्कफुल हुनुपर्छ लास्ट हाम्रो प्रधानमन्त्रीको भिजिट भारतसँग हुँदा 10,000 मेगावाटको जुन डिल भयो मलाई लाग्छ त्यो तर्फको एक प्रकारको यो माइलस्टोन त्यो गेम चेन्जिङ ऊ हो स्टेप हो जस्तो लाग्छ र यसलाई अझै हामीले एजुकेट गर्नुपर्ने यसलाई अझै इन्हेन्स गर्नुपर्ने बरु त्यो सम्झौता हुँदा त्यो बढीभन्दा बढी नेपालको हितमा कसरी गराउने त्यतातर्फ हामी केन्द्रित हुनुपर्ने हो त्यसमा एउटा विश्वसनीय आधार तयार गरेर तिमी ठुला देश हौ तिमी शक्तिशाली हौ तिमी धनी पनि हौ त्यसैले हामीलाई अलिकति यो बेलामा सहयोग गर्नु पर्यो भन्ने कोणबाट पनि त्यो विश्वास दिलाएर मलाई लाग्छ गर्नुपर्ने हो मलाई लाग्छ यो अर्को क्लाइमेट चेन्ज र ग्लोबल वार्मिङ यो मलाई लाग्छ यो त हाम्रो लागि यो नयाँ पुस्ताले पनि र यो क्लाइमेट चेन्जमा त हामीले च्याम्पियन हुने गरी त्यो क्लेम गर्नुपर्ने हो जुन अहिले त्यहाँ त्यो अन्य मुलुकहरूले जसरी विकासको नाममा होडबाजी सुरु भएको छ त्यसमा नेपाल जस्तो मुलुकले यसको बरु क्षतिपूर्ति क्लेम गर्ने गरी हामी चाहिँ यसको चाहिँ दावा पेश गर्न
हाम्रो डिप्लोमेसी चाहिँ स्ट्रङ हुनु पर्यो
स्ट्रङ बनाउनु पर्यो धन्यवाद
Yes, Nepal can play a very important role and it can become an example. We have to do it. We don't have much escape. If we don't take up that leadership, we'll be losing and others will be losing as well. So that is something we should be able to communicate, I think, within the climate change field. And various instruments that are being developed at the international fora, agencies, countries, we should be able to tap onto the resources and do work here. Again, we should not be depending on others to do things. There are a lot of things that we should be doing. Okay? Much of the effect that we see today has got to do with our own action as well. So I think it's both ways that we should be going. Some of the initiatives that are taking place, I think it's a very good one. Various agencies have been supporting, but that is not enough. For us, the most dangerous thing is things that we consider wealth, asset, like Himalayas, snows, trekking, wildlife, biodiversity, everything is being affected. And therefore, we should be alert as well. That's my position.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Rajkishore Yadav, Member of Parliament, former Minister Dr. Minendra Rijal, and Dr. Jagdish Chandra Pokhrel, former Vice Chairman of Planning Commission. Thank you for your time and valuable inputs. What we have learned is like Nepal need to be smart and need to be smart to navigate in this changing context. And there are some views we need to continue with our Panchashil and non-alignment with in new context. Third is like we have realized that our gravity of our foreign policy actually is not in good position. यसको ओज जुन हाम्रो वैदेशिक नीतिमा हामीलाई परराष्ट्रमा गन्नेमा जुन घटेको छ हाम्रो गम्भीरतालाई चाहिँ एकदम कमजोर लिएको छ त्यसमा सबै पोलिटिकल पार्टीहरूले कमन फरेन पोलिसी बनाएर एन्ड दे निड टु हेभ अ कमन अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङ रिगार्डिङ द फरेन पोलिसी यी लगायत हामीले चाहिँ चारवटा कुरा पनि गऱ्यौँ मुभमेन्ट अफ पिपल मुभमेन्ट अफ गुड्स मुभमेन्ट अफ आइडियाज एन्ड मुभमेन्ट अफ मनी फर आवर ओन डेभलपमेन्ट and for that we need also a strong foreign policy. यी कुराहरुमा हामीले छलफल गर्यौं. Thank you very much for listening our distinguished guest.